Hello and welcome to the Saratoga Springs Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, August 11th. I've asked Commissioner Ryan to lead us in our pledge. Would the audience please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for roll call this evening, we are missing Commissioners Barton and Commissioner McConkey, but we do have a quorum present, so we will proceed this evening. Our Community Development Director, Ken Young, would like to take a second. So I'll go ahead and turn the microphone on for him.
Okay, Commissioners, just wanted to take a minute and introduce to you and then have him introduce himself, our new senior planner, Austin Roy, formerly with the city of Alpine City. And he's our new senior planner, and we're excited to have him aboard. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, nice to meet you all. Like you said, I'm coming from Alpine City. I was the planning department over there, so the only planner that they had. It'll be good to be joining a good team. I've been able to meet a lot of the people. This is my first week here, and excited to get to know all of you in the future. So, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is public input. Time has been set aside for any person to express ideas, concerns, comments, questions, or issues that are not listed as a public hearing on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. There is only one item on the agenda this evening that is a business item. That's the Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 404 site plan. So if you're here, would like to make a comment about that, now would be the time. Otherwise, make comment during the items as they come up. Okay, I'll close public comment at this time. And we'll move on to our first item, business item, Saratoga Springs Commercial Lot 404 site plan located 119 West, Crossroads Boulevard. Daniel Schmidt is the applicant. Is the applicant here this evening?
Stuck traffic, but
okay, you can come up and join us. And then this is presented by Gina Grandprix, right? Okay, so Gina, go ahead and take.
all right. So we have, this is in Saratoga Springs Commercial Subdivision D, and this is lot 404. It is right there on the corner of Shoreline Drive and Crossroads. To go back, the zoning is regional commercial. Excuse me. So this is one lot. It's a combination of a retail space and a drive-through. So as far as all of the regulations, as that I could see, this is a project Dave was working on, but the landscaping, they meet all of the requirements of the landscaping, site plan, elevations, and Title 19. So do you have any questions? I kind of ran through that pretty quickly.
Would the applicant like to add anything to the presentation?
Just that we're excited to get another building going over there in the Saratoga Springs Commercial. Hopefully, we have a lot down the pipe, so hopefully we'll be here more frequently in the next couple months.
I will turn this over to the commission for questions and comments. Are you just getting your comments, Ken?
No. Finding it on. I didn't have it up.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will go ahead and make a comment.
I don't have any comments. I'll come back.
Oh, okay. One of the things that one of the old commissioners that was on the commission for a long time used to ask, or it's not much of an ask, it was like a restate. There's, in our code, it requires that if there's any mechanical equipment on the tops of the building, that needs to be screened. And then also the other thing is if there's any ladders for roof access, that they be inside the building, and that's all in our code. And I did look at the checklist, and that's all checked out. And on the elevations, I don't see any of that stuff on there. So I just want to make sure that we're aware of that, because if it happens to be on there, there are two people in the community that will come and probably do me physical harm. So I want to make sure that we know that that's requirements.
Yes, yeah, but these are, we do have an interior roof access as well as the parapet heights are designed to cover all that.
All right. Commissioner Kilgore.
Finally found it, sorry. Since this is an administrative process, does the applicant, or is the applicant willing to comply with all the conditions in the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. That's it.
Any other comments or questions? Any other comments or questions from the commission at this time? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll do the motion. Oh my gosh, I thought I could.
I think your mic's hot.
Oh, it's on.
Well, I have to get to the spot first, sorry. Okay, I move to approve the proposed site plan of the Saratoga Springs Commercial Lots 404 Commercial Building at 119 West Crossroads Boulevard in the RC zone with the findings and conditions, no findings and conditions, yeah?
Yeah, they're in the staff
Oh,
report.
with the findings and conditions below, and
We have a motion from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Kilgore. Any question on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Looks like that passes unanimously. I forgot to have you give your address for the record. Could you, your business address for the record, name and business address, sorry.
WPI, it's 5455 West, 11,000 North 9.
And then what was your name again? Sorry.
Thomas Lenhart.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a public hearing for the Harvest Village Lot 1 Subdivision Plat Amendment located 2053 North, Hillcrest Road, Curtis Minor as the applicant. Is the applicant here tonight?
This one is really straightforward. You usually don't see plat amendments unless they affect public easements. And in this case, the common area is the public utility easement. So you are seeing this one. And it's also made that a public hearing as well. There is just one unit that the footprint is being flipped. And so this one circled in red, you can see here that it's just flipped the other direction now. And that had an impact on the common area, which is also a public utility easement. So staff recommends approval of this request as proposed.
Would the applicant like to add anything?
Simple change, we, when the engineer laid the plat out, he inadvertently flipped a unit, so it doesn't match the actual building plan.
Okay.
So when we found that, when we submitted for the building permit, the planning department and the building department recommended or required that we flip that unit. That's the basis for the proposal.
Could you also state your name and address for the record?
Curtis Minor, 233 South Pleasant Grove Boulevard, Suite 105, Pleasant Grove.
Okay, so this is a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open the mic for any public comment that people would like to make at this time. I'll close the public comment at this time, and I will turn this over to the commission for questions. Commissioner Kilgore.
Could you show what it's supposed to look like? There were several pictures or images, but I wasn't sure which is the one that's the correct orientation of that lot.
On the slide, it was the second one. So this is the corrected version right here.
Okay, because it's supposed to be, yeah.
So the plat has that end unit with the pop-out on the,
Mine's cut off.
exterior side, the south side. And then what they've done is just mirror that unit, so then that pop out in the back is the north side of that unit.
Oh, okay.
And essentially what that does, if you see the building directly south of that, see how it's got the two pop-outs paired, and then one on the end? It just allows us to use that same building plan instead of having to create a brand-new building.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, and then, okay, so as far as being like a corner lot or anything, it has no impact on that or anything like that?
It doesn't, no, where that's not next to a street.
Yeah.
So it would only apply if it's next to a street.
Okay. And then, again, as a administrative process, I always ask if you're willing to comply with all the conditions in the staff report.
And we have 2 conditions in there, so those are on the screen.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the questions were answered. I just wanted the confirmation as well from that diagram that the flip doesn't necessarily, it actually lines up now with the rest of the units in that row, correct?
That's right.
We're not doing anything.
And it doesn't change any square footage of any, all the numbers stay exactly the same.
All right, that's good. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Any more comments from the commission? I will entertain a motion at this time.
I move that the Planning Commission approve the plat amendment for Harvest Village Lot 1, Subdivision amended 2, Lot 178, located at 177 West Autumn Lane, as shown in the exhibits, with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated August 11, 2022.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Anderson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Ryan. Any question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing code amendment title 19, oh, whoops. I'm missing one here. Public hearing Wander Jordan Promenade Village Plan 3, a development plan for the area located east of Riverside Drive and north of Pony Express Parkway. Tyler Heath is applicant.
We have Greg Paley here, is it Paley?
Haley, yes.
Here to, as representative from Oakwood Homes for this application. This is the last village for Oakwood Homes in Wanderer. So it is the highest density, I believe, except for, yeah, it's pretty much the highest density that this community plan will have. There are proposed to be 842 dwelling units in this area. They are cluster homes, townhomes. There are no apartments in this development. 41 acres along the Jordan River will be dedicated to the city as a city park. And there will be 4.3 acres for a meeting house, 9.3 acres for a school site, which has already been sold to the school, and then 3.3 acres for the amenity sites, swimming pool, there's some pavilions and so forth. The lotting plan, as you can see here and you saw in your packet, a lot of these densities are going to be, and you can see that in the village plan. They've got 8 dwelling unit townhomes attached, and then they've got 6 cluster homes, to name a few. All of those were in outlines for those different types of units are in the are in the village plan. This just outlines where those are going, and so Oakwood Homes has been really good in the last 2 villages to follow their lotting plan. And so we will continue to work with them and ensure that they do so. Anytime there has been a change to that lotting plan, they have had to amend the village plan. And they have done so faithfully. So this here is what the lotting plan looks like. The landscaping and open space, again, we're getting a huge park along the Riverside, along the Jordan River. There will be some boat launches. I think another boat launch is going to be included in there. There's going to be some river access for kayaking and that type of thing. So it'll be a great amenity to the city. It also will be able to flow through the city, so our continuous trail system will go into effect along Pioneer Road, all the way down to Patriot Park, and then east along Saratoga Road and then Pony Express. Just some of the amenities. Again, there's going to be kayaking access, trails, parking, pavilions, picnic areas, and so forth. Just go through some of those different amenities, gathering spaces, swimming pool, and so forth. So, and then pedestrian connections, they do follow our view corridor code, and they've ensured that those pathways will follow the village plan and the community plan. As for that, do you have any questions? Staff does recommend approval on this. There are some questions as far as Commissioner McConkey had sent forward regarding floodplain. One thing to understand, and Jeff can probably answer to this a little bit better, is the Jordan River is a controlled floodplain, right? Kind of. It's still in the 100-year. It's still floodplain. Right. So there won't be any of the commercial sites and buildings will not be in the floodplain. So I think that was pretty much it. There was some questions about liquefaction, but I can forward those questions to Jeff. He'd be able to answer those.
Okay. The liquefaction question was from Commissioner McConkey, because he asked me that when I talked with him today.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, because I couldn't quite understand exactly what it was. It was like
Jeff would probably
kind of a
answer that.
heavy engineering type of thing, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure I understood.
He asks, are there any concerns with the structural engineer's ability to mitigate for high liquefaction adjacent to the fault along the river of the commercial buildings, school, meeting house, and amenity center buildings? He said, my understanding is that the state does not currently require mitigation for single-family dwellings and townhomes. If any concerns arise, I request that the proposed commercial and non-residential areas be relocated where they can be built and preserved in accordance with the state's liquefaction remediation requirements prior to the residential areas being developed.
Is that something that comes up in a soils report?
Yeah, from my memory, the soils report did not mention high risk for liquefaction. The soils seem to be of decent quality there, but I'd have to research that question more in regards to the commercial buildings, and I believe that, you know, as we go down the road, those issues would be addressed. It's just not at this level right now.
Yeah, this is a higher level. During plating, that gets looked at a lot more strongly, especially where buildings sites go in regards to those soil reports.
We do require a geotech report that gets reviewed by engineering with the preliminary plat application.
Okay. There was something a map or something in here that talked about the possibility of liquefaction. So is that just that they draw something on the map and say it could happen here, but then when we do the soils reports, it gives us a better picture of how that's going to happen? Is that how that works?
Yes, generally all along our Utah Lake and Jordan River, you know, shoreline, it's considered of it having liquefaction hazard, but that's more looking at an overall broad scope, you know, so the detailed soils report will look at that more closely. I can't remember exactly what the soils report said.
Okay.
For Wander, but I can look that up and get back to you.
Some of the things that we do for homes along the Utah Lake that have high silts, and which means when you get the earth shake, they're going to settle more, and then the water. So a lot of those reports ask for helical piers, so get the footing, you know, piers under the footings and foundations to get those to more compact soils with less fines. And so that's something I believe that we look at with those types of reports. And then the engineer that does those reports makes a recommendation on how to address the soil conditions specific to the site.
Yeah, and again, they're staying completely out of the floodplain, so, within the floodplain, there's probably a higher risk, but since they're staying out of that for all of their structures, there's not as much of a concern.
And so I've taken the question down and sent it to Jeff, and we can look into that further as this project continues forward.
That's done at the level, or at what stage? Is it the village plan stage or the site plan stage?
With the preliminary plat application, we require the geotechnical report.
Okay, so this is would the applicant like to add anything?
Would you like to add anything, Greg?
Well, I would like to say thank you to the commission for hearing this village plan submittal. This is our third and final village plan at Wander. We'll be happy to get this one on the books here, and so we can move through the project here and just worry about our platting exercises. But we've enjoyed our experiences here through model opening, Village 1, and as we're developing Village 2, everything's been fantastic. City and staff have been terrific to work with, and we look forward to continuing to do so in Village 3.
Could you make sure you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, it's Greg Paley, 206 East Winchester Street in Murray.
Thanks. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the mic for any public comments the public would like to make. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'm going to close the public comment, and I'll open this up for the commission's questions. Commissioner Kilgore.
Thank you. The staff packet says, as part of the code criteria for a village plan, one of the requirements is a detailed traffic study. And for the other requirements, it says provided, but then for the detailed traffic study, it's blank. So I was wondering, do we have one, or are we planning for one?
Yes, there is one. It just didn't get included in that. I apologize.
Typically include it in the packet. However, we do make sure that we receive it. So, and yes,
Okay.
it has been received.
So it has been.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question. We could go back to the overall plan. Yeah, where the school site is. I realize this is neither here nor there, but just looking forward, I'm guessing we have the one area towards the back end of the school that's going to remain open between those units. Is that correct?
The pass-through from the school site.
Yeah, the area shaded
across
in.
the street, and then the pass-through through the home sites that appear in red right there to the park will exist, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. So that's all I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Any other comments or questions from the commission? I will entertain a motion.
I move to, based upon the information and discussion tonight, I move to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council regarding Wander Village Plan 3 with the, is that right? With the findings and conditions below in the city planning staff packet.
Well, I have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second on the motion?
I can second that.
I have a second from Commissioner Ryan. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commission.
All right, next item is a public hearing code amendment titled 19.20 IADUs, internal accessory dwelling units, adding noticing requirements and fees for IADU map amendment applications. This is city initiated. This will be presented by Ken Young.
Okay, IADUs seem to be the topic of the year, or whatever. We seem to keep coming up with some new things here. But this is by request of City Council that we address this, as we've had one request so far come forward and now approved by City Council to amend the map that they initially approved. And so we brought forward to you recently the proposal to add the Star Haven Estate subdivision, 6 lots, to be an approved area for IADUs. We did not have in place at that time specific noticing requirements for how we would handle those requests being brought forward for Planning Commission, City Council, nor did we have any fee associated with that request. So that's what this request is now addressing. So there's 2 sections being added to section 192004, which is number 3 and number 4, or Roman numeral 3 and 4. So I'll just read them briefly. The Planning Commission shall forward to the City Council recommendation concerning the request following a public hearing. Notice of the public hearing shall be sent to all properties within the subject neighborhood, as well as to all properties, which we've now updated the verbiage to say which abut that neighborhood, just to be a little bit more clear that it's those that have shared property lines with that neighborhood. And then an application fee for an IADU map amendment request shall be charged in an amount to be established by a resolution of the City Council, which shall represent the approximate average cost of reviewing and processing such applications. This fee shall be included in the city's consolidated fee schedule. So we have recommended and listed in your staff report the fee that will go forward to the City Council for their approval by resolution. And that would be $250 for the application for any neighborhoods that are 20 or less lots, and then $10 for each additional lot if they are larger. So this was, again, kind of based by request of the City Council, especially the abutting property owners noticing was their request put in there. Commissioner McConkey did share some comments and concerns, one of which was his feeling that it wouldn't be representative or perhaps fair if we notice those abutting property owners, but they don't have a say necessarily in whether or not the 66% of that area requests or approves that particular request. My feeling is that these people who are noticed, it's probably a good idea to let them know what's going on adjacent to their property, even though it's not in their particular neighborhood, and that they still have the opportunity to express objection. They can come to the Planning Commission, City Council, and express objection if they'd like. Otherwise, he had a question about the definition of neighborhood, and that's in the code currently as either the HOA area represented by HOA or a non-HOA area that is represented by a residential subdivision plat or plats. So with that, I will, we mentioned the fee. There's the map. We're not doing any amendments right now, but if they were to amend further, that's the map that is used. And our recommendation is for approval. Any questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Ken. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open up this for the public. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I'll go ahead and close the public comment at this time. And it looks like Commissioner Anderson has a question, so I'll allow him to go first.
We don't have any in process, right? We don't have any current requests.
Not currently,
in
no.
the process. Okay, great.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Kilgore.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I completely did not understand what you just said in response to, or I don't know if it's a response, but as a comment to Commissioner McConkey's question. So are we talking about a process that allows adjoining neighborhood, residents of adjoining neighborhoods to voice their opinion about that adjoining neighborhood becoming or being a permitted IADUs? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, the ordinance currently provides for the the residents of that neighborhood who are being represented, that there has to be at least 66% of those property owners that are supporting this request. And so they'll show that by petition or other legal documentation. But the noticing requirement for when we receive such an application to amend the map would go to all of those within that neighborhood, as well as those properties that abut that. It's more just for information purposes.
I see. Okay.
Public hearing and raise whatever concerns that might not get represented in the application process, right? Makes sense?
Yes. Just say that to the mic so we get it on record.
So essentially, the residents who abut will come to a public hearing if there are concerns or additional information that needs to be considered before something's granted.
Right.
In our work session or our discussion with the city council, we did bring that up, and they are aware, but they still wanted those residents to be notified, and they feel like that's the best way to notify them.
And so the notification's coming from the applicant, not from the city?
No, it is coming from the city.
Okay.
We would be inviting them to a public hearing.
Okay.
So does who, is it the planning commission or the city council? Who, is there a hearing when there's an application or like for that? I mean, I know last time there was, but that's because we didn't have a process in place.
Right.
But so going forward, is the planning commission going to hear those?
Public hearing, but then final approval by city council.
So there is going to be okay, so whenever there's an amendment request, then the planning commission will hear it.
Right.
And it'll be a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a public hearing at city council, but at the planning
I
commission.
don't remember any of this stuff.
So the cost of printing in stamps, if that changes, then the city council will just amend that or can?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So that's why we put the verbiage in there, that's by resolution to, whatever that fee is. So you look at our fee schedule, what it'll be, so
Okay.
they can amend that if we feel there's.
And that's why they're over 20 lots, that's why there's a $10 additional fee, because.
Right, because we could get a 500 lot neighborhood, and it's going to take a lot more time to review.
And, Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, yes.
So, and that's where my question, Ken, is around the fee itself. So let's say the neighborhood is coming, who's responsible to pay that? So,
Whoever submits the application, I mean, they can figure out amongst themselves, all the neighborhood, they pitch in, whatever, but we
So if
just
the-
need to receive.
if the neighborhood's divided, let's say they just barely clear the threshold, right, to
Yeah.
move it forward, is it then, I guess it's just, like, if I was the one opposed to that, I would hate to see my HOA then, but I guess I wouldn't have a say. This is a lot of, anyways, it's money. I understand why we're doing it, because there's costing involved with staff and the involvement thereof. So I think this is a fair assessment. And I don't see how we avoid it. It's just, it would be difficult, I guess, for folks in that neighborhood that are opposed to it. They're losing either way, and then some of their money may be going away for something that they don't want in the first place. But we can't control that from the city side.
Right.
Texas.
Commissioner Burns, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Is the $10, is that per house over 20 houses, or is it
Or
$10?
lot, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
So
other?
if there was a large area that had 500 lots, if you will, they could bring it in on separate applications and divide it out by plat, that perhaps there's within that HOA neighborhood or non-HOA neighborhood, there were 3 platted areas that were interested in doing it. Well, if they did them by separate applications, it could turn out to be less expensive separately than altogether. Say there was 500 lots altogether, that's going to be an exorbitant fee. So it's up to them how they want to do that.
Well, can I go?
Yes.
Okay, so what if it's an area where, maybe there's 100 lots, or it could be 10 lots, and only 3 of the lots have residences built on them. And the others are they have property owners, but no one's built anything on them yet. So is it based on residences? So if 2 houses, if the residents of 2 houses say that they want to do it, then that's 66%.
Property owners within that
So they have to notify whoever, it may be an absentee.
Doesn't matter if there's a house on it or not.
Okay. So if there's 10 lots, then 6 of them have to, or 7 of them, have to say, even if there's no houses built on it, they have to somehow contact the property owner and then get their vote.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion.
So Commissioner Ryan, I'm happy to make the motion. Based on the evidence and explanations received today, I move to recommend to the City Council approve the proposed amendment to Title 19 with findings and conditions in the staff report dated August 3rd, 2020.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. All right, on to the big item. Does anybody need to take a break, or can we plow into this one? We
Plow
good?
into it. Let's get done.
Why don't we take a 5-minute, just so, because this is a long item?
Okay, let's take 5 minutes. I'm easily convinced. Okay. We'll go ahead and go to the next item on the agenda, which is a public hearing for the City of Saratoga Springs General Plan Update, a review of the draft plan for the future growth and improvement of the community proposed for adoption, city initiated. And I will let Christine give her name and address for the record, and she can start presenting.
I want to thank you for having us here. I'm Christine Richmond from GSBS Consulting at 375 West, 200 South in Salt Lake City, Utah. Also with me today is Erica Chmielewski. I've been on vacation and I forgot how to say her name. I apologize.
Erica, I turned your mic on. Can you say your last name again?
Erica Chmielewski.
Thanks.
I'm sorry. She's also at 375 West, or 375 West, 200 South in Salt Lake City. So it's a pleasure to be back with you today. I will have noticed that the document has been significantly revised since the last time you saw it. I am just very briefly going to run through, once again, sort of the introductory comments about the document organization. That the overall organization has not changed. We did delete a chapter and have reworked several of the chapters. The content of each element continues to follow the overall outline of how that element contributes to achieving the general plan citywide vision, background history and analysis, what we heard from the community about that particular subject, and then the goals, strategies, and actions. We went through a general plan process that generated a great deal of public input and review that resulted in the document that you see in front of you. The vision statement has been revised based on a lot of input from you, the Planning Commission. It's now is Saratoga Springs is a welcoming with active recreation and economic development promoting an exceptional quality of life. Other primary major changes include revision of the non-required portions of the economic development, housing, and parks and recreation elements, clarifying and reductions to the transportation and water preservation elements to make sure that over time they remain consistent with the transportation master plan and the water preservation plan, and removal of the community sustainability element. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that. If you will recall, the community sustainability element that was in the last draft that you saw summarized the recommendations from other elements or chapters in the general plan that contributed to overall sustainability. It was felt that because those goals, strategies, and actions are embedded in the actual elements that they pertain to, there was no reason really to repeat them in a separate chapter because they're already embedded within the overall chapters themselves and will promote sustainability in that way. We also added an executive summary to the document, and the implementation strategy was reworked to be a summary of all of the strategies, the summary of goals, strategies, and actions, rather than and the distinction there is timing and responsibility. It was felt that the actual implementation timing will be identified through the city's. That's thunder. Sounded like bowling balls, but through the city's annual budgeting and strategic planning process. So rather than duplicating or perhaps creating discontinuities with the general plan, it was felt that it was best to take that implementation piece out of there. The economic development appendix, which was felt like it just kind of duplicated a lot of what was actually in the chapter, has been removed, and the appendix includes a public engagement summary that includes all of the comments and the results of surveys that we had as part of the overall process. And then there have been grammatical and formatting changes. So those are the changes that occurred to the document since you last saw it. And now, any questions or comments, I'd like to hear from you, and then we'll talk about the next steps.
This is a public hearing, so let's do that part, and then we'll come back and open it up for the commission. So being that this is a public hearing, I will go ahead and open the mic up for any public that would like to make any comments. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. I will close the public comment and turn the, or maybe he's not here to make comment. Okay, so I'll turn the time back over to Christine, and I'll open this up for questions and comments from the commission. Just as a side note, there was a couple of grammatical things I turned in before the meeting.
No, we did it in the back of the room before we started. We have them.
No, I didn't take the time to email it. I made notes and
They've already been transferred to the master.
So Commissioner Burns.
I just wanted to state that oh my gosh, my brain the statement.
The
vision, yes. I really like that. I think it was reworded in a way that really much better describes our city. So thank you for working on that.
Hey, we got the vision.
I know, that feels...
I had to share.
There was one comment that I think I remember mentioning the last time we had a meeting. It was actually from a grade 4 to 8 essay question. What would you wish to see in the future of Saratoga Springs? Think big. And the comment was, I hope to see a strong community with lots of kind people. I also hope that we'll be obviously welcoming to all newcomers. And I think that comments reflected in what we did.
By the way, everyone, Troy was on the committee the whole time.
Yes.
So I was there when we went around and around and around, at least in one session where you kind of, an info session or a working session, and we talked a lot about, live, work, play. There's one more, live, work, play, and
it's live, work, play. That's all it is.
I think, learn. It was learn too. This is a city where you can come to live, you can come to learn, you come to work, come to play. We have education, we have business, we have recreation, we have housing or community, right? And I thought that was great. This feels a lot like work and play, but welcoming's good and quality of life, and you could always add safety, and there's other adjectives, but anyway, it left me wanting, to be honest, but I don't mean to be an opposing view. I just think it's partial but not complete. Well, yes. We're a welcoming community with active recreation, economic development, promoting an exceptional quality of life. And I think that's great. An exceptional quality of life is recreation and economic development, but it's also education. It's a destination for learning. It's a destination for safe community. I don't know. It feels like play and work. We got it. Play and work. Recreation, economic development.
Okay.
Could I get you, I hope you all have your document there in front of you. If you turn to page 44, this is where the goal for economic development is. And
Okay. Page 34 of that. 44. 44.
So we've embedded that concept in the goal for economic development, which reads, Saratoga Springs' future growth includes opportunities to work, shop, play, and live in the city. Now, that doesn't have learn,
Yeah.
but we could add it there or talk about it in the overall vision statement.
Well, so at this point, we did spend, I would say, hours on the vision statement, so we do welcome the feedback, aside from there being some big committee consensus that we should add something.
I think we get it.
Yeah.
I think we understand it. I think we embody it. I think we all preach it and strive for it. So whether it's on the screen or makes it here, I just think we want to be a preeminent city, an exemplary city, a welcoming city that where everyone can come to live, learn, work, and play. That's.
Yeah, and I think if the commission as a whole wants to discuss that and as a whole wants us to make a change, that's great. So we do welcome the feedback, and just in light of how much time we've spent on the visions.
Yep.
I'd like it to be a consensus if we're going to change that.
Nope. I'm probably alone in this. So I just wanted to voice it, and we'll move on.
Can I ask a question to that?
Commissioner Ryan.
Sure. So is the idea, Commissioner Anderson, with the addition of the learn, I mean, is your hope for the vision with the general plan that there's some sort of educational opportunities within the city, like we're talking about satellite campuses, or like we're envisioning planning for something like that?
Absolutely. And education is being disrupted right before our eyes, right? Where you can, there's lots of hybrid approaches to learning now that require like these hybrid approaches of at home and gathering together in communities. And I don't know. I just think that's what makes a community great is it's economic development, sure, and it's recreation, sure, and it feels more than just those two things, though. That's all.
It's a good thought.
Commissioner Kilgore.
In the spirit of community input, I think it's actually, your learning point is actually very interesting in the light that in other parts of the report, there was data about how education jobs was one of the top jobs in the county until fairly recently, where it's no longer. Other sectors of economic activity have overtaken education. And so not to say that necessarily education is on a downcline. I'm not trying to say that, but it does sound like at least jobs-based in education is no longer the principal or the main job segment in Utah County. And so being that, then maybe calling out education as being something important is a good idea. So I totally agree with your sentiment. However, as far as the vision statement is concerned, I feel that exceptional quality of life does include, in my mind,
It's a broad stroke.
learning as well.
It's a broad stroke. Quality of life is a broad stroke, so it's probably covered.
Yeah. So,
I do think, though, people say
Yeah.
Saratoga Springs, wow, those schools are excellent academic.
that would be,
Even if it's elementary or junior high or high school, like we strive for that.
yeah, and I think maybe that would be something in the next general plan where it becomes one of the areas that we pursue for economic development or something like that, where we, as a city, we actively pursue. I mean, I don't know what we could do much about public education, since Alpine School District is in charge of that. But pursuing satellite campuses, a community college, things like that. But I would look at it as maybe a goal as part of economic development. So that we could actually have those opportunities for people who are not looking for the jobs, but are looking to learn. But again, as far as the vision statement for this particular general plan, I think that this captures it.
And one last comment I'd say is, what percentage of our citizens, if you took man, woman, and child, what percentage of our citizens are in school right now?
Yeah, it's quite a bit, especially with such a young population.
Right.
And in the document too, one of the, because Saratoga Springs, just the nature of our city, one of the higher job categories, you mentioned for Utah County, in Saratoga, that is a higher number because we don't yet have some of the other job categories. So education, there are a lot of jobs for teachers and others in education in Saratoga Springs. It's a big job category for what's existing right now.
So I have a clarifying, are we just bouncing around, Mr. Chair? Or
Yes.
what is this?
Go ahead.
I just had a quick question.
Opened everybody's mic, so.
All right, thanks. I really like on two questions, somewhat related. So in the plan, I really like how we give examples like of the waterfront developments from other places. I'm wondering though, like we just kind of brush over sort of the downtown gathering spot. And I would love to see like, to give people, I think that I'm juxtaposing the two because I think the waterfront examples give good vision for people to say, oh, hey, someday it might look like this. It gives people an idea of where we're headed, right, overall with some of these developments. I'm wondering if we could just include some examples of what we're envisioning for our downtown.
Let me go ahead and answer your question. So we do have an RFP out right now, a request for proposals, and our economic Doug Meldrum, our economic development director, is going to head our strategic plan. And that will firm up those ideas. So this is more of a broad stroke here because we need more statistical data to back some of the other things, and we will be getting into that this coming year with that strategic plan.
Well, I appreciate the feedback. Sorry, it's just, in one instance where we say it's a broad stroke, and then the next instance we're giving very like detailed examples of where things might go with the waterfront. So it's kind of just, I don't know, I just view that as an opportunity to help provide some, like we have the map, right, and we have just a few lines across the map. One of the things I thought as well is the idea for the city. We say the 10 elements of a lively and unique downtown, and we call out like a gathering place such as a main square, and I interpret that differently as than a main street. So is the idea that we are just going to have this dedicated, some sort of open space as our main square? Are we actually going to try to create like what I would say is Main Street USA type of feel to our city?
That's a fantastic question. So as a part of the general plan committee, we also included landowners within that particular area, and we went on field trips to 2 different locations. One of those was Farmington Station, which does have a gathering space, and then another of those was Holiday Village, which is more like a part of a main street. So we did discuss the Main Street option, and we did discuss the main square option. And both of those are options that we are going to look further into. I think the one that possibly has more plausibility for our city is the main square, but we're not sure yet. That's something that we'll be looking further into with the strategic plan that we do. So both of those options were looked at and discussed, and what do we like, what do we not like, and then we want to get into that further.
So as we get into that further, is it appropriate here to continue on the broader brush and to say a gathering place such as a main square or a main street until we are able to get, because I understand everything that's at play and obviously one small voice and all this, but I feel like if you go to Farmington Station, does that tell you anything about the city of Farmington? And I would say it tells you a lot about whatever retail stores are there and a movie theater, but there's no community feel when I go to Farmington Station. Like, I don't feel like, oh, like this is something unique to Farmington. Like, this is cool. Like, it is unique because it is just this massive retail development that's occurred, right? And I'm sure it gets lots of people and lots of traffic there. But as far as calling it home, like I bet if you poll the Farmington residents, they're not like, hey, that's our spot, right? Like, that's our home, that's our city. I would rather see us develop that type of feel in combination with all the elements that we're looking for in terms of walkability, shops, all of these other things. I feel like you get that much more by centering our city on like not a square, like a main gathering square. I'd rather see like a main street feel to where like this is where we know the Splash Days parade is going to go down, right? Instead of now where it's going in various directions. We have a place where people are putting their lawn chairs out, days in advance because that is our home. That's our identity. That's who we are. It's not just a shopping center.
I think to reiterate what Sarah's saying is our strategic plan is requesting that. They're requesting that type of input from whatever consultant is hired to provide us with that information.
Yeah, and I understand where we're headed. I'm just saying when we're painting with a broad stroke here, like let's just include another quick, clause to that, a main street or a main square, so that when we're painting with the broad brush here, like we're leaving this, it's planting seeds for crazy people like me who want to have something like that versus another shopping center. If that makes sense.
Well, I understand the general plan as lot of it's aspirational. And when I read it, yeah, there were specific examples of different things that the plan talks about, not just for the city square, but for other areas as well. And I totally got the idea that this is aspirational. We want a place where we do get that feeling of Saratoga Springs. Other cities have implemented in different ways, such as, and you had those pictures, and I thought that was fine. I mean, those are realistic because those are Utah cities, or not all of them were, for the riverfront and such. But I don't know. I felt that it was very much an aspirational document with some examples of how things could be implemented, but not necessarily at Saratoga Springs. And I did get the feeling from the plan that it was looking for something that makes it feel specific to the city center. It was something that would make it specific feel like Saratoga Springs. I got that sense from the document itself. And so I thought that's why it's fine. It's like a community plan where, yeah, we want to see what the traffic is going to look like based on some of the guesses of what kind of buildings are going to be there, but that's not what that stage is. It doesn't get to that until you get further down. And I think that's what the general plan is. It's just very high level. These are aspirational, and there's some examples of what other cities have done, but I don't think it has anything to do with, or I don't think it necessarily means anything about that this is what Saratoga Springs is going to do. I think there's still a lot of planning that's required. So I think it's fine the way it is. I mean, our thing tonight is whether we should recommend approval for the update. Are we, based on some of the things that we want to throw in there, are we saying that we want to continue it? Is that?
No. So these are just little tweaks. I would view what I'm suggesting as minor edits. So nothing that holds up the process. I agree with everything you've said, Commissioner Kilgore. I would just argue that if you scroll on page 23, we're given one map and we're saying, hey, this is what our unique downtown looks like, and we're given a picture of the field right now. And then you go to the next pages, 22 through 24, and you say, here's what we hope to aspire to aspirationally, what some of our waterfront properties may look like, and we're given all these fantastic ideas and pictures. So my comment is, hey, throw a few of these examples into what a main street may look like aspirationally to help build that visioning and that aspiration. In addition to because I love what was included on the waterfront. I just feel like the downtown page was, for me at least, a little found wanting, if that makes sense.
And so you could certainly add a condition to that. I think one of the reasons we get more detailed on that is because we still, because we're not there yet, meaning we need our strategic plan done, because our strategic plan will involve the economic side of it. And with the waterfront, it was easier for us to create a vision, and it's less complex than the town center. So it is. However, you can still add any type of condition to add anything or things like that. So.
And can I just remind everyone that part of our goal with having the discussion about the downtown was to identify the area that we wanted to hash on the future land use map to identify as the location for the future downtown, subject to this strategic plan that has the RFP out. The waterfront areas have been on your future land use map for a while. They've been part of the vision there. And so I think they're just sort of at different spots in the overall planning process as well.
Ken, you had pushed your button, and we just wanted to make sure if you wanted to put.
Yeah, a lot of the comments I was going to say have been said, and I agree fully with those. The only other thing I'd add is this downtown area that has been identified in the plan is all owned by one property owner. And we have been working with them through the process of the general plan update, but they have expressed to us the desire to be less definitive on what's happening on their property than even what we're proposing now, even though we feel that we need to do at least this much. But that's why we feel like the next step, the strategic plan, is going to address that better than what we can do with the plan.
I'm hoping we're doing enough so that we can tie them into doing something instead of us losing our business park like what happened with Wander. I'm not going to say they're, anyway, I don't want to necessarily tie their hands, but I would like to at least put their hand on the desk and say, this is what you are doing.
We are going to continue to have meetings with them, and they've been included in this process for that very reason, so that they have a clear idea of where the city's wanting to go. Any other comments?
It's not time for a motion yet, right?
I don't know.
I'd just like to comment. I really like the community values section of this. I think we're all never going to be on the same page for everything. And I think it's cool, though, that we can identify as a community that, one, we have values that we're working towards. And two, these are what some of them are. And I feel like they're good. They're just a good set of what Saratoga really, what the people are really all about. So I like that spot.
Ken, did you have something else you wanted to do?
Yeah, since we're kind of winding down there with comments, I just wanted to throw in there that we really appreciate GSBS and what they've done as a partner in the general plan update. I've been involved with many general plans throughout the years, and I think this has been one of the best processes I've seen for its comprehensive approach and all the participation we've had from Planning Commission, the steering committee, from the public, staff. There's just been a lot of input, and I think we have a quality document.
Thanks for putting the steering committee's names in there. That was nice, that made it in. And I think I had 4 pictures in there.
You were a big part of our process.
Yearbook.
Yes, exactly. I didn't have that many pictures in my yearbook, my senior yearbook, I'll say that for sure.
Can I ask one more comment or question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just looking at like the big section headings, right, where you say we have our vision, our community values, our land use and development, our economic development, our transportation, natural hazards, water preservation, like these big segments, right? Should there not be one on kind of learning, education? Is that not a subset that's worth, like, do we talk about, maybe it's in community facility, but I don't see schools or things like that, like, is this?
Cities,
Yeah, it's not, so we do have a required set of categories. We do have those required sets, and we are allowed to have extra sets in all of this process. That, I mean, we do appreciate your feedback. It hasn't come up. And also, it's not necessarily something, so as a city, we can say things like we would like to see, a college campus here or an education facility here. And we, in our economic development department, can, we as a city can make that a goal. It hasn't come up during this process, and, until this comment now. It's not necessarily something we would normally put in a general plan, but it is something that cities do have as goals that we pursue through economic development or other methods. Okay. So it not being in here doesn't mean it's not something doesn't mean we don't want it or anything like that.
No, I get it. When you look at those big sections, 4, 5, 6, 7, these big, it tells you where our mind space is, right, as a city. And I just think is that.
Well, and based on the census data, Saratoga Springs is a highly educated city. We have a high percentage of complete education, high school, college, and graduate education within Saratoga Springs. So it is something I think that is important to the residents of Saratoga Springs based on the data that we have on hand and the percentage of the population that has completed different levels of education.
And also, I'll just add, the other sections that are in there are areas in which the city has a lot of influence and ability to push forward goals and achieve things, whereas in education, we kind of rely on other entities to do that. We can, as you mentioned, through economic development, there are certain things we can do, but there's a lot we can't do. So that's probably why it doesn't rise to the same level as some of the sections.
Sure. That's understandable. I do think, I don't know. there's a parable, right? As a man thinketh, so is he. As a city thinketh, so they become, right? And if this becomes a focus or an emphasis, then Alpine, the school district, plays ball in a different way, maybe, right? Than perhaps they might otherwise, or so on and so forth. Sorry, I'm not trying to be on the education kick. I just thought we missed a couple elements in vision, and I looked for it elsewhere, and it still feels noticeably absent. So that's why I'm not an educator. I don't work in that space, but I believe in it. Anyway.
Is there a possibility to get some sort of a UVU satellite campus on this side of the lake? Is that even on the radar, or?
You know, that's a great comment. I've been at the city a long time. We have had a council member that was, BYU faculty, and he had strongly recommended that. It's interesting how things change as council members change. And so I do think it's good feedback for the city council to hear, from our planning commission that you would still like to see a focus and an emphasis on that.
If, however, we do get like a satellite campus of UVU or Utah State or something, don't we lose out on property tax revenue? Because aren't they exempt?
They are. So one thing is we don't necessarily want to locate them in an area that would take up land that we would see used for commercial. So it's not to say because of that we wouldn't want it or we wouldn't be interested in it or it has less of a priority. It has just as much of a priority, but in the right location because we don't want it competing for that same land.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it says, but it is interesting to say that of all the comments that are in here from the public and residents, that it wasn't brought up. So
It's
I don't
true.
think it means that
Wasn't-
people
yeah.
aren't interested in education, obviously, because we are a highly educated city, relatively speaking. But it didn't come up.
Right.
A lot
Probably
of
not as a city goal, right?
A lot of times when you already have something, a lot of times the things that are brought up are things that we don't have, and because we have a highly educated population, that might be a reason. But also, it doesn't mean that people don't want it. It could be at this stage in the city, it's not at the forefront of everyone's, of everyone's mind. So it is a great thing, I think, that our city could still strive towards if that's something that we want to continue to promote as a planning commission, as a council, and things like that.
And there's lots of forms of education, right? Not just higher ed. There's trades and other things too, but go ahead.
Well, I just can't help but shake. I sort of feel like this is just a pointless exercise at this point, like it's going to go either way, one way or another, right? And feedback is feedback, what it is at this point, and I understand the timing of it all. Can I get, and Troy, Mr. Chair, you might have insight on this, but so outside of the plan itself, when we launch it, it gets going, it looks like first part of the year. Are we launching it as this 2042 general plan update, making it better, Saratoga? Is that like the theming that we're going around with this, for this?
Christine.
That was the theme from the launch of the general plan process. Making it better, Saratoga was embedded in our website and all of the materials that we sent out to all residents and addresses in the city to help brand it and generate comments. So what's on the general plan cover is reflective of what the overall process was branded.
But that making it better, that was a theme for the process, not for the general plan for the city.
Well,
Right.
we
Because
just.
the vision is this new one.
Right.
Right.
It could be both.
Yeah, it
This is-
doesn't.
this is the vision,
It doesn't
though.
have to be. It's the cover page right now. It certainly doesn't have to be.
It's the only place, it's not embedded. We
Oh,
can,
the cover page is making it better together.
making it better together.
That's staying because that was a fight, if I remember right.
So do we all get shirts?
So
that say-
no, it's not being launched as, the cover page is making it better together.
Yeah, and then just on the executive summary, it just says making it better, Saratoga. I just wanted some insight and background. Like I said, I don't think anything changes at this point. I just feel like when you say, don't worry, we're making it better, like that we're admitting to that there's been mistakes or things are bad right now.
Yeah.
And I don't like to send that message. Like you could fix it by just saying better together. But making it better, like I feel like we're saying, whoops.
Damage control.
Yeah, damage control. Like, don't worry. Like you tell your kids, like, oh, don't worry, dad will make it better, mom will make it better. Like, I don't want to send that message like, oh, gosh darn it, we messed up bad and now we're trying to make up for it.
I don't see it that way. I see it more as this is a positive effort that we are doing together. If you just say better together, well, we're better friends together. We're better whatever together. But this is an effort that we have done and are doing together. So making it better, I think that's a positive motion.
Talking about the plan, right? Making the plan better together.
Right, but like the complaint of, well, I moved here, so nobody else should move here after me is such a real issue in this city that making it better together, it just it doesn't sit right for me. Like,
Here's the truth. Most people will not see this,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Unless we get shirts.
Unless we get jackets will make it official. But again, and I'm just, like I said, I'm a crazy person that wants a downtown street, and I don't think we have to make it better when it's already awesome.
You can always make it better.
Well, and tonight's purpose is for you to make a recommendation to the city council. We have a work session with them next week, and then their meeting for final decision is September 6th. So if there are some edits that are being recommended, you can certainly make those in your motion.
Well, I agree with, I did take it negatively as well. But the reason why I didn't mind it was because I just assumed that was the theme for the process, but the actual general plan is this. And so that I'm okay with.
Okay.
But I agree. So I thought that it did sound like we're trying to improve something that we had made some mistakes about before. But that's okay, because that was the process of the of the committee. But now that the committee's over, that's done, and now that's how I took it.
So the cover is just tying it back to the branding from the
Process.
from the process.
Yeah.
We can take it off.
Yeah.
Where did you say it was in the
It's in the first line of the executive summary, and it's on the cover.
Yeah, I don't think I saw it anywhere else. And
Right.
again, I feel like most everything's predetermined at this point. And it's silly feedback on my part, but
But it sounded like everyone agrees, so I don't think it's silly. Yeah, and we can take it out. It sounds like it shows up twice, and
Yeah.
something that
And
can come out.
it's super easy to,
So if we were
I
gonna-
think you hit on the right themes. Like, again, take out making it and just put better together. That would be my feedback, because we are better together. And that encompasses this whole process that you went through with the plan, and it encompasses what we're trying to accomplish. To Commissioner Sprosty Burns' comment, like, there's a real division in the city about, I was here first, you shouldn't come here next. And we need to help people understand that I came, you came, and there's thousands of other people that are coming. And so we better figure this out. And this is the plan that helps us figure that out. Like, I have full support to Ken's comment. Thank you for all the work that's gone into it at this point. I know, unfortunately, because of work schedule, I missed one of the meetings where we were able to provide, some of this feedback, and that's on me as well. But I feel like we can just, instead of, like, again, the making it just has like a negative connotation. Instead, you can just have a positive connotation to it by eliminating two simple words.
okay.
But I think we can all agree that the traffic here does suck, so we do need to make that better.
it got its own segment.
Which the traffic section is awesome, by the way. So,
Yeah, by developing.
right.
So can we take or do we want to, on the first page, making it better together, we want to remove that there? Is that what we're wanting to make? I'd like to see that stay in here somewhere, because that was the theme that we used.
So it is in the appendix on the public engagement, because that was the branding around the public engagement. So that branding and the related to that.
Yeah,
Well,
they're funky. Yeah.
That was weird, wasn't it? That wasn't just me.
Mr. Chair, like, just for, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but it's not a deal breaker. I mean, one
Okay.
way or another, if there's strong feelings, great. like I said, I feel like most of this is already set in motion, so this is just an exercise we're going through this juncture.
We can make whatever recommendation we want to the city council, and they can say, yeah, leave it, or don't. They have the final say.
Can the recommendation be instead of like bullet out things and then make the recommendation, can you just say like review the minutes as our recommendation? Which I don't know.
I think
if
it's
they
better
do.
if we put something in the recommendation.
Oh, okay.
We do, just so that we know that, yeah, the minutes are going to have a lot. So, and with your motion, it's showing consensus, so that's
Yeah,
what we're
okay.
looking for.
I don't, basically, the audience for this, if over the last 7 years being on the planning commission, if I would have known that these existed before we decided where to move, I probably would have looked at the general plan. And if I move to another community, that's the first thing I'm going to do is probably pull up the general plan to see what it says is going to happen in the city, and the transportation plan would be. The trails plan is important, but it won't be a must-see. But one of the,
If the city has a bad vision statement, what are you going to?
if it has a different vision
If
statement.
it has a bad vision statement.
Ultimately, where we live is probably more my
covered.
wife's responsibility than mine, but I'm
like
definitely
it.
looking.
He's going to volunteer again.
Yeah. But the audience for this basically is developers. That's why the land use map is probably the most important thing in here. So, and that's why I'm glad the recommendation was we need to be careful about changing land uses in the future. I know that's one of the things for the rest of my term, that's one of the things I'm going to look at. I'm going to come back to this and go, okay, well, is this really what we want to have there? That's all I have to say at the moment. Is any other comments or questions?
I have a little bit of a summary if you want to include any of those. So there was a comment on adding anything related to education. There was a comment on considering having something about satellite campuses. There was a comment on having additional examples for town centers such as Main Street or Main Squares, or at least mentioning those. And then the comment about making it better together. And I don't know if I got all of them, but that's what I have on my list.
Our city attorney, Kevin Thurman, he sent an email. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that yet, Sarah. He did have some comments. He just kind of last minute review comments. And so there are concerns and questions that we're going to address with him. I'm not sure if we're fully prepared to bring those up now without having staff review that. But that may be something that'll just move forward with the city council.
With Sarah's list, I'm comfortable at this point to move this forward if everyone's ready.
I'd love to try to make the motion.
Do we need to make any conditions then? I guess the comments are enough, right? For the city council to understand what the discussion that happened without making a condition.
Well, you can make conditions. Yeah, part of your motion can definitely
But they just
include conditions.
Consider it.
Yeah.
And yes, the council will also get the minutes.
Okay.
I'll give it a shot, Mr. Chair, if you'd like. Based on the evidence and explanations received today, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of the proposed general plan update with the finding conditions in the staff packet as presented this evening, with the additional consideration of Planning Commission comments and comments and questions received by the city attorney, that the City Council take those into consideration.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ryan. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Anderson. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That didn't
For all the
go,
work, it's awesome.
yeah, that
Thank
didn't
you.
go near as long as I thought it would.
Yeah, it did go quicker than I thought as well. So
We're on something.
you had a lot of items, and it wasn't 4.5 hours.
Yes.
Not done yet.
So the next item is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes for the Planning Commission meeting on July 28th, 2022.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Ryan. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Those are approved. Reports of action.
I don't have any, sorry. I'm like, oh, that's me, sorry.
All right. Commission comments. Commissioner Anderson, you had something?
Hey, in the Beacon Point community, when you go up Ensign Drive, headed toward the temple, when you get right up to the top of the road, there is the big stone sign that says Saratoga Springs Temple, and there's the big, beautiful temple. And right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of that beautiful vista, is a big black street sign with green says Ensign Drive and Founders Boulevard. And it sits square right in the middle of that T. And is there any way we can just move that to the corners rather than have it be right
Street
there at the
sign
T?
at Founders and
Ensign.
Ensign.
Right, it sits right in front of the monument sign, Saratoga Springs Temple. There's a black. So if you're back at all, it's like, how do I take this photo shot? Like,
Oh,
that make
so, and interferes with pictures.
Interferes with your social media.
this is a big. I mean, the
Influencer.
the best shots are going west to east, right, where you got the mountains and the. I just thought this is.
Okay.
It's like a sore thumb. that's
I
all.
will bring it up to Public Works. I don't know the answer. I don't know if there's like, has to be, you know what I mean? But I will see if we can get that moved. Yeah, okay.
Commissioner Kilgore.
I just wanted to thank planning staff for getting that general plan out to us a week in advance, like you said you would, because for a while, it's been that sometimes we won't get it till like 2 days before the planning commission meeting. And you guys really, kept your word and got that huge document to us early. And so I didn't feel as much pressure to get, to have to get through it. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. And our consultants left, but they had a huge role in that, obviously. So, yeah, it's a massive document. I've read it too many times now.
I feel like I have more of an investment in this plan than I did in the last one. I was just barely new when the last one came out. And it was kind of I feel like I got sideswiped. This one, way different. Director's report, what's coming up?
So I think our next meeting is canceled. We don't seem to have an item for the next meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Was it the meeting after that? Oh, which one were you asking about in your emails today? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm totally giving you wrong information. Just a second. Let me get up the right information.
We may also want to
Oh.
throw in a bit of training in there, as we discussed before.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that. There's no public hearings, but there are items. Okay, so we have Beacon Point Village 2 and Saratoga Commons Tag and Go site plan, and Beacon Point Village 2 is prelim and final. Is that right? Does Beacon Point prelim and final come here? No, but I mean, it's in a village plan. Oh, okay, so you may have 1 to 3 items at the next meeting, and we will get that squared away, which ones. I don't think Beacon Point comes here. I think that's a staff approval, and our planner that put that on is fairly new. And then, so it looks like we have Tag and Go prelim site plan coming, possibly. It's tentative right now. So right now we have 1 tentative item. So we will let you know if that changes or if, yeah, anyhow, we possibly have 1 tentative item, so.
I thought I saw something that came from the email that comes out once a week from Cheryl about a transportation, something from Alpine School District? Is that?
Oh, you know the bus hub that they have next to
Yes.
the high school?
Right.
They're adding a maintenance facility in a parking lot, so it's a site plan amendment to add things to that.
Will that come to us?
That one will, because it's a major site plan amendment, so you'll see it.
Okay. Do we have a need, is that all?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Sorry for the confusion.
Do we need to go into a closed session tonight?
No.
Then this meeting will stand adjourned until our next scheduled meetings in September, right?
Yes.
So there'll be no August 25th?
Well, no, there might be. So we will confirm by Monday whether or not
Yeah, for some reason I thought it was the end of
Sorry.
August already.
August 25th is the next date. We will confirm in the next few business days whether or not we're having a meeting.
All right, well, so we will adjourn until our next meeting.
Okay, thanks.